Oh yeah. And I think it's just the fact that, I mean, like, motherhood is hard. It's really hard. And people tell you, and I think our generation, like this generation now, is better about telling you that it's hard. I think probably before, grandmas and moms were like, oh, it's just magic. It just pops out and everyone's happy, and you know what I mean? And now it's like, it's really hard. And the only way, you learn really quickly, the only way to survive is really the village that you build around yourself.
Hello, hello. This is Samantha Saxby with another episode of Moms with Benefits. And today we have Lucy Boyd joining us. Lucy, I am so excited to talk with you today. Welcome to the Moms with Benefits podcast.
Amanda, I am honored to be here. Thank you much for having me. This is such a treat. I really appreciate it.
You're very sweet. You're going to be the one giving us kind of all the gold nuggets here. So, you came in through Instagram and our website because you run your parents' ERG or your parents' support group at your company, UPS. I think we can probably definitively say we've all heard of UPS. So a major, large organization. And you, Lucy, are the leader of the support group for parents. So talk to me about, what do you do at UPS? How long have you been there? And then how did this group get started? What's the deal? Like, let's give us the lay of the land here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I've been with UPS, I think it's just over 8 years now. Mostly been in sales, just recently got into the technology of sales. But it really was, I've always been in sales. My passion has always been in kind of DEI items. So jumping in different ways as much as I can, trying to get involved, trying to make a difference. And I came back from maternity leave. I have one amazing little 2-year-old, just turned 2. But he, I was just trying to figure out motherhood, but I also wanted to do more. So I was at UPS. And so I reached out to a DEI manager and I was like, hey, I want to do more. What else can I do? And she said, we had a survey for all UPSers all around the world of what they're interested in. And the highest interest was the parenting caregivers group. I think it was of like Taiwan or somewhere in Asia. And it was like, UPSers in America, like that was what they're most interested in. And she was like, I don't think it's because they want to learn about Taiwan. I think it's like we actually need support for our parents and caregivers in the United States. And I was like, absolutely. And it happened just like I said, as I came back from maternity leave, but I also was coaching a team of salespeople at that time. And I had someone on my team who was pregnant and went into labor at 28 weeks. So that was a whole thing that we kind of dealt with together work wise and trying to figure out, okay, how can we kind of make sure that your job is secure, your everything at work I can take care of, but also how can work help you now that you're transitioning sooner than you were ready to. So it was a perfect time for me because I was also like, what the heck am I doing? But I also saw 2 other completely different people who went through, kind of the same thing, but at different ways, and all of the issues that everyone was facing. So basically, it just all kind of happened at the right time where I was like, okay, so I have seen need for this firsthand. And I also have gotten feedback that parents and caregivers all over UPS really need some kind of support. So just about a little less, we're now in our 2nd year of it. So about 2 years ago, I kind of decided, okay, let's do it. So started UPS's first ever like corporate parents and caregivers. We call it a BRG, business resource group, but a lot of companies call it ERG. Is very, very similar. But it was great because it now has allowed me to have some really amazing connections and do some really great things. So I'm really blessed to have this opportunity.
Oh, amazing. So I heard a lot of things in there. Wow. So it feels like the stars aligned when you came back on your maternity leave and you wanted to do something more for your organization. It sounded like, can I ask, like why, or like what was that calling? Because it feels like I just hear, and maybe this is just me wanting to like have you fulfill the narrative that I've heard, but I feel like post baby moms are like have a newfound kind of urge, push, drive to make a difference in some way. And do you feel like that fits you in this story?
Oh yeah. And I think it's just the fact that, I mean, like, motherhood is hard. It's really hard. And people tell you, and I think our generation, like this generation now, is better about telling you that it's hard. I think probably before, grandmas and moms were like, "Oh, it's just magic. It just pops out and everyone's happy," and you know what I mean? But and now it's like it's really hard, and the only way you learn really quickly, the only way to survive is really the village that you build around yourself. And so I think for me, I realize that. And now I have like this desire to try and help women who go through that and
Mm-hmm.
families who go through that. Because again, it's just really hard. And I couldn't have survived if it wasn't for the people that helped me and stepped up for me. And I now want to kind of do what I can to either be that person and like, be there for a friend. I have a lot of friends that are now giving birth right now, which is really exciting. But also, within a business, can I create change that helps that for people coming up?
Yes, I love the creating change framework. I feel like a lot of times, I might have talked about this before, but there's like the people that, want something in an organization, and then there's like the key holders, if you will, to make that happen. But you have to have employees, leaders, managers, supervisors, executives that are willing to want to make that change
Mm-hmm.
and like chase that change.
Yeah.
And they're a key part of kind of evolution, and it takes a lot of work. And so I would bucket you as a change maker because you're taking a lot of time, energy, thoughtfulness into this organization. And so question for you. You mentioned it takes a village concept. Totally agree. I love my village. Do you feel that UPS is part of your village?
That is a good question. So I will say sometimes yes, sometimes no, to be completely honest, right? So
Yeah.
the individuals that I have been so lucky to work with and the managers who were with me, um, I mean, have been the village for me. There was a time that my son was having some really big troubles with allergies, and we were having to go to the doctor a lot. And I called my boss, and I ended up tearing up, and I was like, "I'm so sorry," but she was like, "No, I get it. Please, like, family's important. Take it." And like having that was so helpful for me, and then it allowed me to learn, hey, I can also, right, it's great, that feels so good, I can do that for my people as well. So having those people around me is that village. It's really helpful. But at the same time, I don't always feel that UPS has that for everyone, like at a corporate level, you know what I mean? Like the rules and everything. But it's been really exciting to be in this position and see how they're working on changing it and how they are actually, listening to people, not only listening to us, but listening to what other companies do. How can we make ourselves better? So it's been really, really exciting that like at moments where I'm like, dang it, I wish UPS could be better at something. I'm now in a position that I have conversations with people that they're like, oh no, we're working on it. Like we understand that it needs to change and we're trying to find a way for it to change. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. They're receptive to
Hmm.
the employee surveys. They're doing employee
Yes.
surveys. They're
Yes.
receptive to it. They're putting, I'm assuming DEI initiatives are monetarily backed at UPS. If they're,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. Great, great. That's amazing. So, I'm curious then if part of the kind of mission or goals for the business resource group, as UPS calls it, for parents and caregivers, is to be a community or village for parents and caregivers. Do you think that's accurate?
Oh, 100%. So, one thing I'll say, which is tough, and I think especially for being a BRG for a Fortune 50 company, it's hard to really like make change and do an impact and, see it happening all in front of your eyes, right? So, what we've done is kind of we all jumped in and we're like, oh, we want to do something great, make a big difference. And it doesn't happen overnight. So we're like, okay, how can we set goals to make sure that we really feel like we are doing something and making an impact? So one we've said is like really increasing our member numbers. It's our second year and we're about to like double what we had last year, which is really exciting. We've loved that. And then another item is having events that have um, real takeaways for people. So we can't just have UPS come up with something out of the blue and give it to everyone, but we can have an event where we can say, hey, people are struggling with XYZ. We need to show them what's going on. And something that's really cool is we partner with a group, Resources for Living, and they provide so much care and help for UPSers. A lot of people don't know about it. So, for example, if you have someone that is a family member that's about to go into needs like an assisted living home,
Mm-hmm.
you need to pick one. That's hard. You need to
Yeah.
tour 17 of them in your neighborhood. You need to whatever. Well, this organization does that for you and then comes back and gives you a list. So it's things like that. Or if it's a daycare, comes back and gives you a list. So it's really cool things that many UPSers don't know that it exists and it's there for them. So we try and highlight what's already there for UPSers for them to know, hey, actually UPS has this support for you, but it's not blasted in front of you. So we try and blast it in front
Mm-hmm.
of everyone and say, hey, we know it's really hard. There actually are these things around to help you. So we have that as well. But yeah, really, it's really just a lot of it is raising awareness, and having like a new culture, to really bring people together. A lot of business resource groups have goals, to kind of help UPS as a business find more leads, things like that, which is really great. We've really changed it and said, look, we want to change culture. We want there kind of a support group to be provided here, that where we can really bring people in, allow people to feel safe and share what's frustrating them and what's not. So I told you we had these events where people can kind of really walk away feeling like they know something new and learn something. We've also had my favorite event of these, we call them like little cafes, like a caregiver cafe or a lunch and learn type thing. Everyone just sits and we have a topic and we talk. The most impactful one we had was a caregiver cafe where a woman came on. Everyone talked about kind of what they're going through and talked about how her dad recently got diagnosed with brain cancer, and now she has to take care of him full time, but also has to take care of her kid. Like, how do I do this? And got super emotional. And everyone ended up sharing their story and how they got through it and things and tips. And like, it was just so emotional. And it, it was like, it was tough because I was crying, but afterwards I was like, wow, like, even though we didn't make a big change, like I feel like we impacted one person today, right? Like one
Yes.
thing, one at a time. So it's
Yes.
been really cool. I think more than anything, just creating this community and providing support groups, if you will,
Yeah.
where people can feel comfortable to talk about what they're going through and kind of ask for help.
It's interesting to me that those, like you're finding a lot of in-person meetups, it sounds like. Do you do them online too, or
So
is this
actually
online?
opposite. It's totally
Oh.
virtual. So we are
Oh,
also,
okay.
yeah, so we're also the only fully virtual corporate BRG for UPS, which
Wow.
pluses and minuses, right? I
Mm-hmm.
miss the in-person thing, but it allows us to have members. We actually made it to be just in the country, but then we ended up having like an international reach, and it's been really great. So it's been multiple countries, multiple people all over the world kind of coming in. So I miss the fact that it's not in person, I'll be honest. But
Mm-hmm.
like again, like we have so many people all over dealing with so much that it allows us to really have a larger reach, which is cool.
Yeah. And so you gave some caregiving examples, and I think that's an interesting kind of outline that I want to explain because some of the employee resource groups or the business resource groups we have found focus solely on parents or working
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Mm-hmm.
is the terminology they use.
Yeah.
And then some
Yeah.
are more caregivers and they lump parents under the caregiver umbrella. And so, what are your thoughts on kind of those two different models as you're now only 2 years in?
I think it's really hard to separate parents and caregivers. And I think one would be, for example, we've kind of separated ourselves within where we are, but into like kind of three different sections. And we've learned that they all kind of go together. So it's great that it's under parents and caregivers, but it's kind of parents, and a lot of times that's new parents, like
Okay.
those kind of conversations. And then it's caregivers, usually for like aging parents, usually is
Okay.
what we see, right? And then we also have had a lot of things for like special needs children.
Mm.
So, and I think that is so important to talk about, so important to normalize and understand that like, wow, these parents who care for these special needs children and still work, absolute rock stars. I mean, I still am like, hey, I don't know how I fit in all this in one day, but I just can't even imagine how those parents do it. So to be able to like talk about it and have people realize, hey, this is what they have to go through has been really cool. But how can you tell me that those parents are not also caregivers, or you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
what we've learned a lot too is there's now this like sandwich generation, what we call it, like you are technically, you're taking care of your kids and you're taking care of your parents, and that is a lot, but it should be talked about. So anyway, I really am really thankful that we've brought this together, and I'm not at the age yet where I am caregiving for my parents,
Mm-hmm.
but we're starting to do more and more with my grandmother, which has, and because of the caregivers conversations that I've been with, been a part of because of this BRG, I'm able to actually help my parents kind of figure out and navigate kind of maybe next steps that we can talk about and look at and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So your BRG is focused on culture change. How does that translate to the investment from the organizational perspective? Like, but do you know what I'm asking?
So basically, how can we get the company to buy into our
Yeah.
changes that we want? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done. It's a lot of like poking and knocking and say, hey, we're here. Don't forget about us. So one thing that like is kind of a good example, UPS has jumped in before us about trying to figure out a way how we can provide kind of some child care options for our workers.
Okay.
So it's really cool. It's just starting to come out for a few of our locations, mostly like center hubs where the packages come out of. And it's with Patch Caregiving, who basically provides almost like emergency care for your kids. So, say for
Oh,
example,
yep.
your mom can't watch your child today. She's sick. Oh my gosh, I can't come into work. Well, if you have we have Patch Caregiving, so actually there is someone who can watch your child today. So it's not like an actual daycare to bring in every day, but when you have issues, hey, bring them in. So UPS is doing this. It's awesome. Well, we've kind of found out, we're like, hey, we're here. We would love to help. What can we do? How can we amplify this? So it's been kind of a mix of us seeing what UPS is doing, jumping on it and saying, hey, count us in. We want to be someone who's here and can help, shout loud and proud that UPS is
Mm-hmm.
doing these great things. And then in the back end too, to be like, hey, like for example, we really are hoping that UPS can improve its paternity and maternity leave. And so we've kind of reached out and say, hey, we want to do this. And that's how I was saying we found out that UPS is really working on stuff. But trying to say, hey, we can also provide more feedback. Let us jump in here. So it's different ways of saying like, hey, we already see you're doing stuff. Great job. How can we help what you're already doing? But also, hey, here are some ideas we might have if you want to kind of
Yeah.
jump with those too.
Yeah. So it's really screams
Yeah,
collaboration
you have to.
when it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like your BRG is amplifying and making awareness of the existing benefits and resources that they're already investing in as, an organization. And then you're able to kind of have, I don't know, boots on the ground or like
Mhm.
real employee insight
Yeah.
as to like, what's working, what do we want, how do we maybe tweak some things to get it better. And so a good example of like collaboration is needed for change if
Yeah.
we really want to enact
Oh,
change.
100%. And I would say too, like patience, right?
Mm,
Like it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a lot of, again, at least with a Fortune 50 company, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of networking. It takes a lot of connecting with some amazing people, and it's so exciting when you get to someone who can quickly make a change, and you see that they're excited. They're like, oh wow, I didn't even know you were around. Like there's just, it's so big. There's so much. You keep having to knock on doors, poke people, and even just say like, hey, we love what you're doing. How can we amplify it? What can we have a platform too. Let's get more people going on. We've also had a lot of goals this year of connecting with other business resource groups. So we have like African American Business Resource Group, veterans, Asian, Crusader, Latino. Like there's so many. So trying to jump in all of those groups and say, I bet you guys have parents and caregivers too. Like,
Yeah.
let's connect. So
Yeah.
that's been really fun as well.
Are you like, is there anything required from you as the leader to report back up to HR or the DEI leaders on an annual or a regular basis?
So I think I just sent it in. So I want to say it's maybe like twice a year we send in kind of what our numbers are. How many members do we have? How many events have we had? How many people have attended those events? And volunteer hours as well, how much we've done. Nothing is required. There's no like number we
Mm-hmm.
have to hit. We kind of make our own goals, but then they try and use that, right? To say, hey, BRGs are a great thing. We need to have them. We need to use them to create this kind of sense of belonging within UPS. So I'm always like, even though it's right, it's kind of probably annoying to fill out things. I'm happy that I get to do it and show, hey, we're actually doing a big thing. This is great. Whatever you need for me to show, like, let's keep this BRG around. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So I kind of want to touch on you meant if you're open to it, I'd love to hear more about your experience. And what I heard, you're chasing change in this way too, is you are a supervisor and you've had some folks that report to you that were going out on leave or trying to navigate their paternity leave. And so managers play a crucial role in culture. And so, just what are your thoughts on that, like in your experiences?
Oh my gosh, everything. And especially, um, again, like what's so hard, what I saw as a new mom, right? There's, especially going back to work, there's so many new things thrown at you.
Mm.
And there's so much you're not prepared for. And then you get stressed out with work. So, like, for example, right? I knew it would be hard going back to work. I knew we would have a lot going on, but I did not realize, even though people warned me, how much time my son would be out of daycare because he'd be sick because he's new to the daycare, right? And so then you have a kid at home and you have to stay. So it just was like, oh my gosh, that's so much. I don't have this much time to take off. Like, what do I do? And just having a manager who has that empathy, that understanding, and like that sees that, no, I know that you want to be here. I know that you care. I know that you're a hard worker, but I also know that family comes first is so important. And like, I have tried so much with when I've had teams to try and to have that, because no matter what the training is, no matter what the corporate rule is, no matter what happens, what really people remember and what people kind of, even live by and decide if they want to keep their job or not is with their relationship with their boss, with their manager. And
Hmm.
as a new mom, with the amount of stress that you have and trying to navigate how to balance work and life for the first time with a new child, having a manager who is able to empathize and even help you out. I mean, it's so incredibly important. And even like, again, like I previously I had a boss who had children when I was just coming back from maternity leave, was very helpful. But currently, my boss does not have any children and had to deal with some stuff, some sicknesses recently, and still was so kind. And so, just how are they doing? What's going on? So it's not like you need to have kids to be able to be kind and empathize and help out when a mom or a dad is struggling figuring out how to balance everything. But I just really truly feel empathy and understanding, and even that grace is something that I think is really important, because I've noticed too, just talking about grace, a lot of new moms don't give themselves grace, right? Like I remember that was my like goal. I was like, I have to do it because I'm really bad at it, especially like I want to be a good mom. I want to be good at work. I want to be all these things. And now you're trying to figure out how to juggle it. There's no way. There's there's no way to do it. I mean, there's so much going on. But I think seeing that grace given to you from a manager is like, okay, got it. So it's okay if I take a minute
Yep.
to to go eat lunch because I didn't have time. Like, like the
Yeah.
silly things.
Yeah, the
But
basics.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% concur that I feel like returning to paid work, you you will never, it's like the quote, like you will never forget how people make you feel
Yes.
during that. Like you are in such a vulnerable place, particularly for new parents, trying to navigate how the heck to keep this baby alive and go to work and be productive
Yes.
and be loving and figure out your identity, and
Yes.
it's just insane. It's wild. And so yeah, for those managers, like I just view it as what an opportunity. I mean, what an opportunity managers have, supervisors have, organizations have to be able to have that culture,
Mhm.
to be supportive. And so I mean, I feel like that will directly translate into a pride for your organization and how they treated you in those vulnerable moments, I would call them. I mean, that's a relationship that is I view, I guess I don't know, I guess talking out loud, I feel like you as an employee have some sort of relationship with your employer, and I'm not calling it like family or anything like that, but you, between you as an employee and an organization, you're having a relationship.
Yeah.
And so if you are in a vulnerable position, that is them treating you with respect, with empathy. And so that is deepening your relationship together, which will then ultimately, you will, be on a BRG, or,
Yeah.
have more dedication
Yeah.
and longevity at the company. And so it
Mhm.
just feels like a human,
Yeah.
obvious kind of connection.
Yeah. And you talk about like identity. And I think that's a huge one too, of when you become a new mom. Oh my gosh. Like, right. Okay. Who am I now? Right. That's a whole different topic I can go on
Yeah.
forever with. But
Yeah.
you also have this identity of I am this person that works for a certain company, right? That part, it takes up a lot of your day. I know some
Mm-hmm.
people don't want to, like, I'm probably one that like, okay, I'm not going to be the one, the first, when I introduce myself, I'm not, hey, I'm Lucy, I work for UPS. No, like that's not a number one thing I want you to know about me. But let's be honest, I'm there most of the day. I'm doing a lot, working a lot.
Yeah.
And I take pride in doing a good job,
Yeah.
and trying to make a difference there. But having that identity also shifted, right? Because you don't have as much time, you don't have as much, maybe especially focus, because probably losing sleep at the beginning of there. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like to have people give you that help and that guidance and that grace is so helpful in the beginning. That again helps you shape who you are now that it's a little bit different in that world of work, of how you've identified.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's go back to your role as the leader of the BRG for UPS. What struggles do you have being this leader?
Um, wow. Is there enough time in the day
Oh,
for
gosh.
it? Like, not for the what struggles, but like just
Oh,
like, yeah, no, no, no. Don't worry, don't worry. More like I
just
mean,
time.
there's just not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
Like, you have especially like, right, that this isn't my main job, and I have a child, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a great husband I want to spend time with too. So I would say like, there's just not enough time, but I have met the most amazing people through this, and have created an awesome team, and where that I feel so amazing to say, hey, I'm in the beginning, I felt so bad giving um kind of tasks and some things that maybe not be as fun for people to do. But now I've really gotten to know everyone, and everyone is so kind and so quick to offer their time, and to step up and take new responsibilities and do new challenges and things like that. So I would say time is the hardest, but like it has made me better at time management, as things like this do and challenge you. But it also has allowed me to be, I would say, a better. I feel like that's such like a management skill. I want to say a better manager, because it's such a management skill to be able to delegate, and to delegate in a way that allows people to feel. I never want someone to feel like I'm just pushing something on them, because
Yeah.
then it's not worth it. But for people to figure out what people are empowered by and good at and enjoy doing, and kind of having them do those things. For I'll just give this example. I'm so excited. We do this monthly kind of newsletter
Hmm.
I do not have the eye for it. I am just not great. But it is awesome. And we have an amazing couple people who work on it every month and create something that lets people know what's going on in the BRG, how they can get involved with UPS, some things to learn about. So, like, when that first came out, I was like, hey, I really want to do this. Does anyone want to do it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, yeah, people have jumped up and said yes, and more people have jumped on, and it's just become such a really, really cool and powerful thing that allows us to contact and let our members know what's going on. So it's been really cool.
You sound like, I mean, for 2 years in, it sounds like you have a lot of tactics already. Like, so you have the newsletter, you have events. What else do you have?
So, like, we're newsletter is really great. We have, and then we kind of break down our different events of like events that people can take away, and then actual like kind of sit and chat type thing. We've also done volunteer items or different kind of volunteer opportunities, which have been tough because it's totally virtual. But our BRG member who's in charge of putting those together is absolutely amazing and has been really good at kind of thinking out of the box and thinking out of ways to, okay, how can we get everyone to donate to this? But they're all around the world. Like there was one, it was donating to, I think it was senior citizens at a certain location. Well, it was everyone send what you want and send it to her. And then she put it all in a box and put it all together. So she did so much extra work for it, but created an event which allowed everyone to really donate, do something, and then kind of bring it all together. So it's been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, that makes a ton of sense. Okay, so for those that are listening right now that are looking to make some sort of change, call it, chasing change at their organization to some degree to support themselves as, a working mom, that typically our listener is a working mom or a new mom or an expecting mom, what would you share with them that might help?
I would say first, step up and ask questions. So yes, I'm sure that you see things that need to change, and don't be afraid when you get told no. So like for example, sometimes HR, I tried first with HR, it wasn't the way to go. It just wasn't the way to go to kind of figure out the change that was needed at the time. So I did then reach out to our DEI group. I know not everyone has DEI groups, but this group was great to be like, hey, yeah, you can absolutely use a BRG platform to support parents and caregivers. So just know that there are different ways that you can go to figure out how you can really make an impact. Another option is like see what's already there. Before the parents and caregivers, there was a BRG that I was a part of, the African American BRG, and there was there's a week in April that's all to support Black mothers and how there's such a disparity giving birth and things like that, especially just for rates of survival, which is so crazy to think of. So anyway, we got together with an organization there. I saw, hey, this is something I could jump on and really kind of make an impact. So see what's around already, see where you can jump in, and if not, step up and ask someone probably higher than you and see, hey, where can I jump in? And if someone says, sorry, not room here, go to the next one. Don't feel bad about it. But then I would say too, once you figure out where you can go in, don't expect change overnight. Give yourself some grace, right? And figure
Yep.
out, okay, so here are maybe a few measurable goals that I want, and we're going to work towards it. And again, if you have one meeting that you think makes an impact for one person, feel good. You did
Yeah.
something, you talked to one mom, you talked to one caregiver, whatever it is.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing advice. And thank you again for sharing, Lucy, what you're doing at UPS. It's clearly making a difference, I think, to more than one person. And so keep at it and keep making that change. So,
You are so sweet. I will say, and again, cannot do this without the amazing team that's behind me.
mhm.
So for again, all the people who are out there who are trying to figure it out, grab a team. And especially I promise you, if you think something is wrong or thinks that something needs to be changed, or you just want to give support, I promise you there are other people out there that want to do the same thing. So be the one that steps up, but then reach out and say, hey, who's with me? And I promise you, you'll find people. And like I said, I found the most amazing group that'll support you. And I'm sure everyone will have that as well.
And amazing. And just to add on to that, it's like if you are in need of support, when you do feel like you have capacity, then you can open up to be that person who gives support. And so life ebbs and flows. And so just give yourself grace for the stage of life that you're in. Take the support when you need it, give it when you can, and together collaborate. We'll be better when we collaborate. So
perfectly said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lucy.
Such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I so much appreciate it.